Darkness. Silence. The void stretched infinitely, an ocean of black punctuated only by the cold, distant light of dying stars. To most civilizations, space was an abyss, endless, indifferent, merciless. But to the Zorvath Dominion, it was theirs. For over 5 millennia, they had ruled this sector of the galaxy with an iron grip, their warfleets patrolling the hyperspace lanes, their dominion unquestioned. In their time, they had crushed countless would-be challengers. Empires had risen and fallen before them, all believing they could defy the absolute supremacy of the Zorvath. None had succeeded. Their war doctrine was ruthless, their fleets unrivaled. Entire species had been erased from history for daring to resist. The very mention of their name sent chills through lesser races, who spoke of them in hushed whispers, as if fearful their mere words would invite annihilation. And yet, something had changed. For the first time in recorded history, the Zorvath found themselves faced with an adversary unlike any they had encountered before. A race that did not bow, that did not recognize their authority, that would not, submit. They called themselves humans. Their arrival in the galactic sphere had been dismissed at first. Another primitive species clawing its way into the stars, another insignificant footnote in the grand history of the Dominion. But the Zorvath had been wrong, catastrophically wrong. The humans were different. They were not simply warriors, nor conquerors, nor even expansionists. They were something far, far more terrifying. They were survivors. No matter how many battles they lost, they adapted. No matter how many fleets they saw shattered, they rebuilt. Their technology advanced at an impossible rate. Their strategies evolved unpredictably. Their sheer stubbornness defied all logic. Even when they were pushed to the brink, backed into a corner, facing annihilation, they fought. Harder, smarter, more brutally than any Zorvath commander could comprehend. And now, the full weight of that terrifying resilience was about to be felt. Across the immense battle station of Ziffer Prime, the alarm klaxons howled. A deep, pulsating hum reverberated through the reinforced corridors, sending tremors through the station's thick alloy plating. High-ranking officers scuttled through the command deck, their exoskeletal limbs twitching with urgency, eyes glued to the vast holographic war map at the center of the chamber. At first, the reports had seemed like a system error. A lone vessel, detected at the edge of the system. No accompanying fleet, no support, no signs of a standard invasion force. But as more data streamed in, the truth became impossible to ignore. It was real. And it was coming. A single human warship. Not a scout vessel. Not a cruiser. Not even a battleship. This thing was unlike anything the Zorvath had ever seen. Over 15 kilometers long, 3 times the size of the Dominion's largest dreadnoughts. Its hull was composed of an unknown alloy, absorbing or outright negating all scanning attempts. Its energy signature was unreadable, shifting constantly as if it were phasing between realities. It had bypassed the outermost sensor arrays undetected, slipping into the system without a trace. Even the most elite intelligence officers, those who had studied human war tactics extensively, had never seen anything like it. A junior officer, his bioluminescent markings flickering erratically, turned to his superior with trembling hands. "The Lord Commander Vakrin. The vessel has sent a transmission." Vakrin, a towering figure of authority among the Zorvath, narrowed his crimson eyes. His armored tendrils tightened against the console, impatience flashing across his rigid features. "Play it." For a brief moment there was nothing but static. Then, a voice. Deep, cold, unyielding, not mechanical, not the synthetic tones of an AI or the simpering desperation of a lesser race pleading for mercy. No. This voice carried conviction, power, authority, and above all else, certainty. "This is the UHS Revenant. Zephyr Prime, you have 30 seconds to surrender." A silence heavier than any gravity field fell upon the command chamber. Then, laughter. Nervous at first, then outright mocking. Several officers exchanged bemused glances, mandibles clicking in disbelief. Surrender? To one ship? The sheer arrogance of it was staggering. Vakran allowed himself a slow exhale, his mandibles flexing in distaste. Fire all batteries. Obliterate them. The order was instantaneous. The entire battle station came alive. Massive plasma cannons, railgun turrets, and high-yield energy lances roared to life, unleashing a wall of destruction unlike anything the sector had ever seen. The surrounding fleet, over 100 warships strong, joined in, saturating the void with thousands of directed energy blasts, a storm of destruction, blinding and relentless, the kind that had ended civilizations. And then, it happened. The warship did not evade. It did not raise shields. It did not deploy countermeasures. It simply kept coming. The first wave of plasma fire struck its hull and vanished, not deflected, not absorbed, not even negated by some exotic shielding, was simply gone. As if it had never existed at all. The Zorvath officers froze. 100 unreadable alien expressions twisted in disbelief as the impossible unfolded before them. Another salvo, then another. Thousands of energy lances screamed through space, bombarding the incoming ship with enough firepower to shatter moons, but the result was the same. Nothing. The Revenant advanced, untouched, unstoppable, inevitable. Vakran's grip on the console tightened to the point of fracturing the metal. His mind raced, grasping for an explanation. Some kind of advanced shielding? A quantum distortion field? A trick. It had to be a trick. But then, the true horror dawned upon him. This was no mere illusion, no deception. They had fired upon it, and the ship had simply decided to ignore the attack. A chill colder than the vacuum of space spread through the war chamber. For the first time in thousands of years, the Zorvath Dominion felt something utterly foreign to them. Something they had never known. Fear. And the Revenant? It was still coming. Panic swept through Zephyr Prime's command deck like a plague. The once confident officers now scrambled for answers, their luminous eyes flickering erratically in distress. How? How was this possible? Vakran's mind raced, his war-hardened instincts searching for any rational explanation. The Revenant was breaking every known law of physics. Their weapons, powerful enough to rip continental fractures into planetary surfaces, had done nothing. Not even a dent. Not even a flicker of energy discharge. It was as if the warship existed, beyond the battlefield itself, and yet, it was very real. The Revenant continued its relentless approach, gliding through the onslaught, as if it were moving through mere mist. Its hull was smooth, devoid of the clunky architecture of Zorvath dreadnoughts. Not a single visible weapon. No turrets, no missile bays, no external armaments. And yet every sensor indicated unfathomable power. Vakran snapped toward the tactical. Officers. Scan it again. There must be something we've missed. Weak points, structural gaps, anything. The technicians fumbled at their stations, their digits tapping frantically against glowing interfaces. The AI-driven scanners recalibrated, flooding the deck with new data. And then, nothing. No power fluctuations, no life signatures, no reactor emissions. The ship might as well have been a ghost. Then, something changed. A vibration, low and thunderous, rolled through the fabric of space itself. Not a sound, but a presence. A shift in reality, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The Revenant slowed. And then, it vanished. A sudden black void swallowed the ship whole, as if it had been erased from existence. No jump signatures, no traces, no energy trails. Silence. For a moment, only the pulsing hum of Zephyr Prime's command systems could be heard. Officers exchanged uncertain glances. Was it a retreat? A tactical withdrawal? Then, alarms screamed across the station. "Emergency spatial breach detected," one of the officers shrieked. Vakran's tendrils snapped toward the display, and what he saw turned his blood to ice. The Revenant was inside the station's defense perimeter. It had skipped past their outer fleets. It had bypassed all security grids. It was now hovering directly above the station. How? Not even the most advanced Dominion ships could teleport through high-security gravitic shielding. Zephyr Prime's defenses were reinforced with quantum entanglement barriers, designed to prevent exactly this. And yet, The Revenant had appeared inside without so much as triggering a ripple. Vakran's mind screamed for action. Fire point defense. Turrets. Everything. Within seconds, the battle station unleashed a hellstorm of energy. Tens of thousands of automated turrets lit up, discharging antimatter rounds, particle lances, and hyperspectral missiles at point-blank range. Nothing missed. The Revenant was caught in the heart of it all, a swirling vortex of destruction, and yet it remained untouched. The incoming fire didn't even register an impact. The projectiles vanished before they could reach it, dissolving into thin air. No explosions. No deflections, as if the very laws of reality refused to let the human warship be harmed. Vakran's chest tightened with something he refused to name. But the nightmare had only begun. The station's lights flickered, then dimmed. Then, darkness. Across Ziffer Prime, systems began to fail. Entire decks powered down, emergency generators faltering as an unseen force crawled through the infrastructure. Artificial gravity weakened, leaving officers floating helplessly in mid-air. Holographic displays glitched, distorting into horrific static-riddled images. And then, the whispering began. It slithered through every audio channel, a sound not meant for mortal ears, not a voice, not a language, a presence, something ancient, something wrong. Vakran's tendrils recoiled involuntarily as the shadows themselves twisted. And then, it spoke. You were warned. The words echoed inside their minds, not spoken through comms but directly imprinted onto their very thoughts. Vakran's breath hitched. His warrior instincts screamed. This was not just technology. This was something else. Something humanity had become. Something beyond the Zorvath's comprehension. For the first time in his life, he realized the truth. The humans had stopped being just another species. They had become something more. Something unstoppable. And Ziffer Prime was about to learn, firsthand. The Revenant was not here to negotiate. It was here to end them. Vakran's breath came in sharp, shallow bursts. The station's emergency lights flickered, bathing the command deck in eerie pulses of crimson. Around him, officers struggled against the weightlessness, their bodies drifting as the artificial gravity systems continued to fail. Sector by sector. The whispering had stopped, but something far worse had taken its place. Silence. An unnatural void of sound filled the command deck. No mechanical hum of the station's core, no beeping consoles, no static from malfunctioning comms. Just absolute quiet. And then, the screaming began. Not from the officers on the bridge. From the lower decks. Vakran's head snapped toward the holomap, his luminous eyes darting across the failing station readouts. Hundreds of distress signals flared, to life. Sectors that had gone dark were now flooding with emergency alerts. Crew members were vanishing, not dying. Vanishing. Entire squads were being erased from existence without a trace. No remains, no energy signatures, just gone. Vakran's claws curled into a fist. What is happening down there? The last functioning security feed flickered to life, just for a moment, and that single moment was enough to shatter his sanity. A corridor. Shadowed. Warped. The walls seemed to pulse as if something was breathing beneath the metal. A squad of elite Zorvath troopers stood frozen, weapons raised, their tendrils bristling with primal fear. And then, it stepped forward. Not a human. Something beyond human. A figure clad in obsidian armor, its edges shifting like liquid metal. Its form was humanoid, but wrong. The proportions felt off, as if reality itself was bending to accommodate its presence. No facial features. Just a smooth, blank visor. The squad opened fire. Every round hit, and did nothing. The figure didn't dodge, didn't deflect. It simply walked forward, untouched. And then, it raised its hand. The air warped. Time collapsed. The troopers convulsed violently, their bodies twisting, their forms disintegrating in ways that defied explanation. Not turned to ash, not vaporized, unmade, as if they had never existed at all. The feed cut out. Vakran realized he couldn't breathe. This wasn't a war. It wasn't even an invasion. This was execution. A cold, ruthless culling. His warriors, his empire's finest, were not even worth killing properly. They were being erased. And at the heart of it all, the Revenant remained motionless, hovering above Zephyr Prime like a silent judge. Vakran clenched his jaw, his instincts screaming between fight and flight. Every choice led to death. He needed answers. Now, with trembling digits, he activated the last working communications link. "Human vessel," he forced out, his voice raw with desperation. "We surrender." Silence. Then, laughter. Low, cold. Not mechanical, not distorted, but unmistakably human. Vakran's blood chilled. He had expected a warlord's voice, a conqueror's decree. Instead, he heard something far worse. Amusement. As if the humans had known this would happen. As if this was inevitable. "Surrender?" The voice was slow, deliberate. "Oh, Vakran. You still don't understand, do you?" A sickening pause. "You were conquered the moment we arrived." The signal cut. Vakran's vision blurred. His claws trembled, and above him, through the viewport, the Revenant began to move again. Descending. Zephyr Prime's reckoning had only just begun. The Revenant descended like a shadow of judgment, its vast form blotting out the distant stars. Vakran stood frozen, his mind warring between sheer terror and disbelief. How? How had the mighty Zephyr Prime, the most advanced stronghold of the Zorvath Dominion, been reduced to this? The command deck was in chaos. Officers abandoned their posts, their usual military discipline shattered by an overwhelming primal fear. Even the most hardened warriors, those who had fought against the Dominion's deadliest foes, had never seen anything like this. They were not facing an enemy, they were facing extinction. The station's internal alarms blared again, but they weren't from any remaining weapons systems. Hull breaches, not from external fire, from inside. Vakran's claws dug into the command console. Impossible. There had been no docking maneuvers, no entry signals, no shuttles, no boarding pods. Yet the sensors did not lie. They were here. The humans had arrived. A garbled transmission came through from the lower decks. Barely understandable, drowned in static and what sounded like screams. "They're inside. No, it's already here." The voice cut out. A new feed flickered to life. The station's last operational security camera. The footage was grainy, distorted, but it showed everything Vakran needed to see. A long, dimly lit corridor. Bodies lined the floor, motionless. Some intact, others erased from existence, as if something had simply removed them from reality. And standing in the center, the same figure from before. The human. Or was it still human? The black armor shimmered, absorbing the dim light. The figure's visor was blank, unreadable, reflecting the twisted remains of what had once been proud Zorvath warriors. Then, it turned its head. It was looking directly at the camera. Vakran's breathing stopped. There was no way, no possible way it knew. The screen glitched violently. The figure moved, not walked, not ran. It skipped forward. One moment it was standing meters away. The next, it was right in front of the camera. The feed cut out. Vakran recoiled, his tendrils curling in instinctive defense. No, this wasn't technology. This wasn't some advanced stealth infiltration. This was something else. Something worse. The command deck's doors slammed open. Every officer in the room spun around, and there, standing in the entrance, was the human. The same featureless, void black visor. The same fluid, impossible armor. It hadn't hacked the station's defenses. It hadn't forced its way in. It had simply arrived. The guards opened fire immediately. Every shot missed. Not because it dodged. Not because it had shields. Because the bullets and plasma discharges never reached it. They vanished before impact, as if reality itself refused to allow this being to be harmed. The air grew cold. Something shifted. Then, the human spoke. Not through sound, directly into Vakran's mind. "You were given a chance, Vakran." Vakran staggered. The voice. It was inside his thoughts, twisting around his very consciousness. How? But you did not listen. The officers screamed as their bodies began to contort, not from pain, not from any visible attack. They were simply fading, disassembling, unraveling. One by one, their forms peeled away from existence. Vakran watched, helpless, as his most trusted commanders were erased without a single drop of blood spilled. The Dominion ruled through fear. You believed yourselves gods. The human figure took a step forward. The air shuddered. But gods do not beg. Vakran fell to his knees, his body trembling, his soul breaking. This wasn't a battle. This was a sentence. And Zephyr Prime had been found guilty. Above them, the Revenant loomed, its silent abyssal form charged with unfathomable power. And then, it fired. A single beam of black light. Not energy. Not plasma. Something worse. Something that did not burn or explode, but simply erased. The atmosphere of Zephyr Prime ignited. The oceans boiled away, and the once mighty capital of the Zorvath Dominion vanished, consumed by the void itself. Vakran saw it all, until he too was erased. Final section. Vakran felt nothing, no pain, no sensation, no weight, just an overwhelming, infinite emptiness. He had expected death to come as it had for his ancestors, either in the chaos of battle or the slow, withering grasp of time. But this was neither. He was still conscious, still aware. Yet, Zephyr Prime was gone. His body no longer existed. The warships, the station, the warriors of the Zorvath Dominion, all erased, and yet he remained, suspended in the void, forced to witness. The Revenant loomed in the distance, motionless against the backdrop of the galaxy. The human warship had not simply destroyed his world, it had rewritten reality itself. Vakran had ruled over thousands of planets. He had seen cosmic storms rip entire civilizations from existence, watched dying stars collapse into black holes, devouring everything in their path. Yet none of it compared to what the humans had just unleashed. Zephyr Prime had not been conquered. It had been unmade. The Dominion's grand capital, a world that had stood for millennia, had been reduced to an empty void. Not even debris remained. Not a single atom. The human figure drifted before him, its black armor absorbing the faint light of distant stars. It had followed him here. Vakran tried to speak. No words came. You misunderstand. The voice resonated through his mind, cold and absolute. This was never about war. The figure moved closer, not flying, not walking, simply existing wherever it willed. This was a correction. Vakran's mind burned with desperation. A correction? You ruled through fear. You called yourselves gods. The figure's featureless visor tilted slightly, mocking him. But gods are bound by rules. A ripple spread across the void, distorting space itself. And suddenly, Vakran saw everything. Every atrocity the Dominion had ever committed. Every world enslaved. Every species crushed under their rule. Zorvath fleets glassing planets, executing civilians, reducing thriving civilizations to ash. And there, at the center of it all, was him, Vakran, the supreme warlord, issuing the orders without hesitation. The weight of his crimes crushed down upon him, a cosmic judgment rendered in an instant. His arrogance, his cruelty, it had all led here. Your empire was never invincible. You simply had not met the true rulers of war. Vakran struggled, not against the human, but against the truth. The Dominion had feared only one thing throughout its history: the unknown, the power that lay beyond their reach. And now, they had found it. Or rather, it had found them. The Revenants. Weapons charged once more, not for another attack, for the final act. The figure raised a single hand. Your kind will not be remembered. The void around Vakran shuddered. A blinding pulse of darkness erupted from the human's palm, and the supreme warlord of the Zorvath Dominion, once feared across the stars, ceased to exist, No remains, no history, not even a memory. Just nothing. Far away, on the edges of the known galaxy, a dozen other alien civilizations watched. They had seen Ziffer Prime's fate, they had witnessed the human warship's power, and they understood the message. Humanity had been silent for centuries, but now, they had spoken. The warning was clear. Do not provoke them. Do not challenge them. Because once the Revenant arrives, there will be no second chances. Final thought. What if humanity isn't just another galactic species, but something far worse? A force of nature. A cosmic balance against those who abuse their power. If the stars are watching, maybe it's because they fear us. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to HFY Chronicles-849 for more sci-fi stories that will leave you questioning everything.